everybody, and welcome to Better Call Sukan. Better Call Sukan is a podcast that we discuss about different kind of sports. Hello everybody, my name is Arif Daniel. I'm your host for today with my partner here. What's your name, boy?
Carl.
Carl. Hello Carl, how are you today?
Okay, good.
Good?
Let's go.
Let's go?
Let's go.
Terus?
Let's go. Let's get.
Alright Carl, basically what we have here on our table, if the listeners they can't really see, but the YouTube people they can see lah actually. What is it on our table? Kita ada like macam ada bola, ada glove. Kita bagi yang pendengar-pendengar tu macam like, oh what are they talking about? But
Ball,
tapi sebenarnya
glove, goggles.
Tapi sebenarnya dekat tajuk tu dah ada dah. Dekat tajuk tu dah tahu dah apa. But anyway, kita saja kalau dia orang macam tertekan kan. Nampak kan. So basically we ada pegang macam ada kayu ni. There's a stick here. I don't know what is it called. We gotta know it after this.
Yep.
There's a few balls here. There's a glove. There's something for eye
Protection.
So kita dah bagi hint sikit what the sport is. Fun fact, when we did cricket episode 13,
Okay.
dengan Encik Salman,
Okay.
we asked a question to him. Kalau you nak what sports do you want to know in the future? Dia jawab sports ni. He answered this sport. But he said this sport doesn't exist in this country. But when our listeners was like listening to that episode, and they were like, hey, actually this sport exists in this country, and it has been in this country for quite some time. It's just that we don't know. Even I pun tak tahu. So
The beauty of the podcasting world.
yeah boy.
Yeah.
Alright, so basically the sport is
Lacrosse.
Lacrosse. Okay, aku bagi tahu lah. Basically orang yang cakap tu adalah aku. Because I have a friend, dia main lacrosse. So bila dia ajak for me to like, come lah play lacrosse. I said, apa benda tu? And then dia tunjuk I gambar. Gambar lacrosse tu. In my head, ni macam apa dalam cerita SpongeBob tu yang dia main tangkap jellyfish dengan Patrick. Because dia pegang kayu exactly the same. So then dia kata tak ada, bukan. Ni like it's a cool sport. So I was like, alright, come invite the person to speak. So she called her the founder of Malaysian lacrosse. Am I right?
That's correct.
Alright, Carl.
Alright, welcome to the show, Jake Iskandar Marr.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very happy to be here.
Jake Iskandar Marr. So we call you just Jake?
Just Jake? Yep.
So Jake,
Awesome.
the founder of Lacrosse Malaysia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very, very happy to be here.
Alright, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be talking about lacrosse today to all of you.
Can see the excitement on your face.
Yeah.
Alright. Before we get to know more about what is lacrosse and everything, okay, we want to know a bit about you first. How do you start your sporting journey? Like maybe you had different other sports, or maybe when you were small you were introduced with lacrosse. So yeah, do tell us.
Sure. I mean, in my case, I was actually very brought up on football. So I've always been very much a football fan. Always run in the family. My dad was a Man United fan. And very much wished that I also grew up a Man United fan. Did not end up being the case because I was a rebellious teenager and decided to support Chelsea instead.
Okay.
But then so pretty much when most of my sporting life was mostly revolved about football. Then I sort of went to university, and then that sort of opened up a whole new world for me in the sense of all of these different sports that you can basically just be a part of their communities, and the one that immediately stood out to me was lacrosse. It was
When was this? When you were young?
So this was when about 10 years ago when I was in university.
Okay.
Right, and they basically, it's a showcase where they have all these different sports or communities that you could join, and then I can see these people holding these weird sticks, and I'm like, okay, what are these, right? And I'm kind of interested to know more. So I mean, it was like my last year at university, and I thought, okay, let's just try something different, right?
Oh, so before that you were doing other sports?
Pretty much, being a good student, academics and all that. Or, well, that's what I like to tell people. On the other side, it's probably not that, but
Alright, so
student life and all.
So you did not know anything about lacrosse before your final year?
No.
That means when you, maybe university for a few years. So when you were a freshie and all, you did not see the game at all?
No. Really didn't. Had no interest in it whatsoever. But when I tried it in my last year university, I was hooked. I just could. I tried it, went for the trial, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to play.
What made you to like, okay, I want to try this? Yeah.
I think it was just because it was something so niche, but also the physicality of it, right? So I think I've always enjoyed like football, where you can be sort of fairly physical with each other and stuff. And then there's obviously other sports where you can have that physicality. So hockey, American football, etc. So that was another sport that I was potentially interested in getting in. I mean, especially with someone with my build, I sort of can fit into those type of sports, right? But I also wanted to be different.
Okay.
So I thought, yep, let's be different. Let's try lacrosse out and let's see how it goes, right?
Okay.
And I guess I've never looked back since.
I think maybe when you went in and tried it out, maybe the community was fun.
Very small. Fun, but very, very small, tight-knit community.
Even in the university?
Even in the university. It's pretty much one of those sports which is just very niche in general. Not many people know about it, but when you kind of show them this sport, right, like visually, most people have seen it in some form before.
I've never seen it actually.
The biggest one that I always get is either Teen Wolf.
Okay.
Right? Because he is a lacrosse player. Or I don't know if you remember American Pie, but Oz.
Okay.
Oz, he was also a lacrosse player as well.
Okay.
Shows how old I am.
Okay.
You and me both.
Which university is this? Is it in Malaysia that you guys play?
No, it was in the UK.
Oh, you were studying in UK?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's how you... Okay, now continue. From UK, then transition to lacrosse, Malaysia. Macam mana, how it started?
Yeah, pretty much. So in that final year university, I got very hooked on lacrosse. Found out I was quite okay at it, not bad. End up playing for the university. Played for Stoke for quite a while. When I graduated as well, which was about 2013, something like that, I moved up to Edinburgh and I played for their team for about 6 months. And then I got the offer to basically move to Malaysia, right, for work. And so I was very excited to come here because obviously I'm actually part Malaysian.
Oh, yeah?
So my mum is from Penang. And she is still based here actually. So so kind of made it very easy to make that decision to move. So I moved over, and obviously having played 1 year of it, I was very keen to just kind of keep playing, right? But now I'm moving to a country where there is just no lacrosse of any kind.
No, at all.
No,
does not exist.
At first I thought it did exist because just before I moved over, I did the normal thing and go over social media to see if there is lacrosse in Malaysia, and surprisingly there was like a Facebook group for it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is quite interesting. So I'll message a Facebook group and say like, okay, hey, I'm moving over to Malaysia. Can I join for one of your sessions? Yeah. This is when, and then I got a reply. And they were like, yeah, we have practice at like Desa Park City, 9 a.m. on Sundays. And I'm like, wow. I've gone from like, how often do you get to play pick up a new sport for 1 year and then you get to train with a national team, right, straight away, right?
Okay.
So that was the thought running through my head.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so then I moved over, brought all my stuff. All my stuff was still being shipped over, but then I decided to go for the session. And it ends up just being me and who ended up being and one other guy.
Huh?
That's it. Just two of us.
So the person that kejap sorry for laughing.
That's okay.
But the person who created that session at Desa Park City, and he has a group, is it? Facebook group.
Yeah, Facebook group and all that.
And all that. And he he was the only one in the group ke?
Sounds like it, right?
Alamak.
Imagine having the photos, everything like that. And yeah, it turned out to just be this middle-aged Japanese guy.
Oh, okay.
So not even Malaysian.
not even Malaysian.
Not even Malaysian.
Okay.
Middle-aged Japanese guy. But I always like to kind of tell this story because that is where essentially we birthed Malaysia Lacrosse. Right?
Okay.
Through that one chance meeting of me just randomly Googling it and then finding this group. And from there, we were like, yeah, it's quite fun. And then we basically sat down after the session, just understand, like, okay, first I was a bit fooled. I was like, okay, this is it. This is the training session. It's just one person and a stick, and I don't even have my stick, so it's just two people with
Oh,
one
you have
lacrosse stick,
you have
so
to
I can't
play
even
with
do
this
anything.
lah. You have to play with this.
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
needs to have this.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, what's
So what
it
do you guys
wasn't-
do? You guys just end up talking?
Pretty much, yeah. Just end up talking, and pretty much from there, that's how I ended up becoming the founder of Malaysia Lacrosse, and that same person became my vice president of the association for about
Nice.
7
7 years.
I see. Wow. Okay. So before we talk about Malaysian lacrosse more, this question that I want to ask all the time to a sport that I don't know. How do you play lacrosse?
Yeah, take
good.
us from
Yeah.
like okay, you inviting us
Yes.
to play a game until we finish blowing our lungs out.
Like Carl needs to draw. Carl
Yeah,
can
yeah,
draw.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll go over the basics first, but essentially, you need to have what you all have in your hand, which is, in this most scientific term, a stick.
Oh, in lacrosse
We call it a stick too.
Oh, okay.
Official term is called a cross, but we call it by the more scientific term, which is stick.
To the listeners out there, let me describe you. I'll try to describe how this stick is.
Sure.
So it's like this stick is a long stick. It's like something like macam, but at the end of it,
Scoop.
macam ni, macam nak galah, macam galah. Galah apa dalam English ah?
Aku pun lupa.
Basically, if like you have
Like
a
something you
scooper.
catch butterflies in.
to catch butterflies to catch you know the fruit tree. Yeah, you you want to take the fruit. Yeah, it's like that. So by the end of it, dia ada macam a hook like that. Yeah. So to the listeners on all the audio platforms, yeah, this is it lah. Okay. So then there's a stick.
So
Continue.
there's a stick. If you were going for your first session, I would basically give you this stick in your hand, and we'll basically go through the fundamentals. So,
Alright.
understanding lacrosse as a general format, it's two teams playing against each other with two goals. So very similar to other team sports like football, hockey, basketball, etc., where your aim is to score more than the other team.
How
right?
big is the goal?
The goal is...
Is it like a futsal kind of hockey?
No,
kinda?
it's 6 foot by 6 foot.
Oh, okay.
Macam ni
Quite,
juga?
yeah.
6 by 6.
So 6 by 6. So imagine my height just that way as well.
Alamak, kita tengah duduk ni. We're sitting down. Okay, so basically it's a smaller, it's not that big lah.
It's not as big as a football goal. Let's put it that way.
A futsal?
Less.
Futsal.
Slightly smaller than futsal.
It's slightly smaller than a futsal goal.
Okay.
Yeah, sligly
Alright.
smaller than a futsal goal.
Alright. How many players are there?
10 aside.
10
okay.
aside.
So
Okay.
you have your goalkeepers,
Okay.
3 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 attackers.
Okay.
Right.
Quite balanced.
And essentially how it works is, score more than the others. So when you're playing lacrosse, there's 2 different variants, obviously, and I think this is also a beauty of where how lacrosse can differ to other sports.
Okay.
There's different equipment made specifically for women and men's lacrosse, and
Okay.
different rules
so.
attached to it. So in the women's lacrosse game, which is what you have in your hand, you can see that the net is a bit narrower,
Yes.
right,
Oh, so
compared to the men's one which you have in your hand,
Oh.
right? So the reason
listeners.
for that is, in the women's game, it is strictly non-contact with the exception of the stick. So in lacrosse, if you were carrying the ball, you carry the ball using a stick, right? Someone can try to knock that ball out of your stick using the stick, right? Like you've just done, right?
okay.
So you can pretty much do that. So you're in a game of lacrosse, your intention is obviously to make sure he doesn't score, and how you do that is to try and dispossess him.
So basically, I can hit. So basically, I can hit the only the stick, not the person.
In the women's game, yes. So that's how you pretty much dispossess them, right?
Okay.
So he will be running around with the ball in his pocket, right?
Huh? Ball?
Trying to run
In a pocket. Oh, in this pocket. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
In the stick pocket,
Stick pocket.
right?
Okay.
And he'd be running towards your goal,
Okay.
right? Trying to score.
You can just
Right?
run.
He's intending to go there, shoot, and you basically have to try and stop him. So the best way to do it is hit the stick, let the ball fall to the ground, try and scoop up the ball, because that's the easiest way for you to win possession over.
Okay.
Right? So that's the women's game, where you can sort of have that stick contact. Now with the men's game, you'll see that the reason that you have a deeper net
Okay.
is because this same stick that he has, he can hit you on your
Anywhere.
body, on your torso. So just sort of like your torso area here. So
Okay.
not your legs, not your head, obviously. And that is legal. That is perfectly legal in the sport of lacrosse.
Oh, yo.
Violent.
Yes.
It's like
Do you have guards?
Yes, you do.
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah, if you were coming for your first session with us, obviously I would tell you that this is how it works.
sorry to cut you off. Is this preparing for like the zombie apocalypse or something?
Maybe, I don't know. But
Alright.
how you play lacrosse is people would use these sticks to pass to each other with the ball in the air, right? And obviously, if you are intending to score at the other end, it's easier for you to maintain having that ball in the air
Okay.
versus trying to keep that ball rolling along the ground, because for the opposition side, it's difficult for them to try and dispossess or intercept the pass when the ball's in the air. Think about it. There's a tiny stick. How are you going to dispossess the ball when it's up here?
Correct.
However, if he hits your stick and you drop that ball, it's much easier for him to try and scoop up that ball.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. So basically, how do you pass it? Like on air or better in the ground?
So mostly in the air. So I'll just grab that stick from you there.
All right.
So, essentially, if I was catching the ball, you were passing me the ball. What I'll be doing is I would be holding my stick like this. If I was right-handed, I would be holding my dominant hand here. So this gives me most control over where I put the stick,
Okay.
right? And I have this other hand to basically support, right? So if that ball was coming from you, let's say, I would pass, I would catch, right? If I wanted to pass back to you, I would move this hand down and basically pass it back to you. The reason I move that hand down is I don't get a lot of power if I sort of pass like this. Rather, or if I throw it to you like this, I'm going to have a lot of power, but no accuracy.
Correct.
It's going to go over there. So
Okay.
this is a nice middle ground.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we're just talking about the stick first, you know?
And then we're just talking about the stick.
Okay.
So, yeah. So essentially, in a game, you would have
10 players.
10 players.
Does the goalkeeper wear any special equipment?
I think before we go into that, it's important to highlight for the men's game,
All right.
everyone will be wearing equipment. So everyone wears a minimum of gloves. So the gloves that you see here, elbow pads,
Okay.
and a helmet. For the women's game, you'll be wearing the eye patch the eye guard that you see here.
All right.
Okay, so basically what you're telling is women and men, there's no mixed game?
There is a mixed game. So I think that's the beauty of it. There's two different versions of the game, and if people want to sort of try both, they can. But when you see more with the mixed variant is playing more the women's game. So this is how we sort of run the sessions with Malaysia lacrosse in general, especially with new players, right? Yeah, so we try to introduce them to the mixed variant. We try to not introduce them to the very physical element because not a lot of people like to get hit, obviously. So this is how we sort of like, if you were coming for your first session with to try lacrosse out for the first time, We would simply just give you the sticks, the balls. Hey, try passing to each other. Just try scooping each other. Try and dispossess him. Try and score against him. Things like that.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. The next question is, you said that you did lacrosse in the UK.
Yes.
So I just want to ask that, is lacrosse from the UK?
No, but it's getting very big in popularity over there.
Okay,
I will say.
so where is actually lacrosse from?
It is actually originating from America.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Specifically, the Native American tribes of the Iroquois people.
Okay.
So yes, so they used to. I think this was around 17th century. I think. Never been good with history.
Okay.
They essentially used this as a tool or a war game to settle disputes between tribes or settlements.
Oh.
Right? So they could either go all out war with each other, or they could play a 1,000-man game of lacrosse, where they would have, let's say, 2 trees as the goal, and they'd have all of these 1,000 people per side, and basically their goal is to score more than the other side, right? Bearing in mind that obviously this is a replacement for war, there was probably a lot more physicality back then.
Of course.
I see. So then it developed towards
what
So
we
then
have
so then the
What we have
sport
today.
sort of came over to places like Canada and Europe, and they sort of developed into this game of lacrosse
Okay.
that we see today.
All right. Before that, thank you for the history of it. It was really interesting. As a history nerd myself, so okay, let's just go back to you're gonna invite us. You've told us there's the goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 forward. How long is each half? The breaks. What kind of fouls or rules that we have to know beforehand?
Yep.
And what other necessary details do we need to know?
Okay, so in terms of the rules, sorry, I need the list again.
How the halves? How many halves?
Okay,
How many halves?
Yeah.
And,
The duration of the play.
duration of play.
So duration of play. So lacrosse is played in quarters.
Okay.
Okay.
Right? So
alright.
4 quarters of either ranging between 50 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
I think it used to be 20 minutes outright. But I think there's been slowly a move towards 15-minute quarters.
Okay.
Breaks in between, so 2-minute break, 2 or 3 minute break between first and second quarter.
Alright.
You have halftime, which is about 10 minutes, and then you have a break between third and fourth quarter. Right?
Is there a break in stoppage time if the ball is out of play or something?
Only if the time is hitting 2 minutes on the clock. So what I mean by that is it's a rolling clock, so similar to football,
Alright.
until you hit that 2-minute mark. So
Alright.
2 minutes left in the quarter. If the ball then goes out of play, whether that's the sides or behind goal and stuff like that, then the timer will stop.
Okay.
Right.
Stop clock. Okay.
You also have, each team also has timeouts, so they can call timeouts similar to
How often?
Once per quarter.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if they want
Like
to try a
basketball.
play or something like
Yeah,
this.
okay.
Yeah. What other rules?
In that, okay, you mentioned the goal is 6x6. How big is the field?
Good question. Not sure exactly how to put it in mild terms, but I would say imagine a American football-sized field without the end zones.
Oh, okay.
And
is
that would
big.
be your playing
Long,
pitch.
it's very long.
Yeah, it's very long.
Long and narrow.
Correct. So it's
Okay.
very long and narrow for 10 aside, essentially. So there's a lot of ground to cover.
Okay.
One of the very nice, unique rules is similar to ice hockey, for example. You can play behind goal.
Oh, okay.
So goals are sort of like situated here, but you have a bit of playing area here. Usually you can use that in your favor, and actually there's a lot of strategy involved with setting up attacking plays by having someone positioned behind the goalkeeper so that they can't see. The goalkeeper can't really see what they're doing or trying to plan, stuff like that. And there's a couple of other niche, unique rules that they have, like which I think promotes more attacking gameplay. For example, if I decide to take a shot at goal, and let's say I miss, but at the point the ball goes out of play, the closest person to that ball is my attacker, right? Someone from my team, the ball remains in attacking possession. So,
Okay.
that promotes like people to shoot more,
Okay.
right? Rather than I'm being afraid. Okay, if I shoot and it goes out, I'm gonna give away possession. The possession's gonna turn over, right? So that's a very interesting rule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another one is okay. So like in terms of like earlier, I asked about special equipment for the goalkeeper. Is there any special equipment?
Not much difference. I would just say more padding.
More padding,
Honestly.
okay.
So I would say, you have the standard. You have your gloves. You have your elbow pads. You have your helmet. Your helmet pad will also have a throat guard. So something to make sure. Obviously, the ball
Doesn't
is.
hit the neck.
So obviously, this ball is solid rubber. So if you get hit by it, it's going to hurt, especially as a goalkeeper. You also can have things like your shin pads. That's mostly to block shots, not really tackles, anything like that. And then you can sort of get things like chest pads, rib cage pads, etc.
All right. On average, in terms of the scoring games, is it like 5-5, 10-0?
Can be more than that.
All right.
So you can see a lot of games that range from, I would say the bug standard would be about 12 to 15 goals each team, right? Obviously, it can be more or less than that. I think that's a good point to talk about, like Malaysia lacrosse's history, if you want to go into that later.
Yeah, of course.
Because we've had a lot of games where it's not gone well for us.
All right.
Yeah. So I think in pretty much other rules, one important aspect is how offside works in lacrosse.
There's an offside.
There is an offside rule, but it works very different to the more traditional sports. But it also dictates how play essentially works in lacrosse, right?
Okay.
So when you have your 3 defenders, 3 midfielders, 3 attackers, right? The offside rule is officially you need to have at least 3 outfield players in your own half or in either half. So
It's a must. Okay.
So what that means is if you are attacking, you need your 3 defenders need to stay in your half.
Okay.
So it means you can only have 3 midfielders and 3 attackers in the opposing half.
Okay.
And likewise, the opposition must leave the 3 attackers in your half, and you have 3 defenders versus 3 midfielders. So it always creates a 6 versus 6 situation.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So pretty much it's all about 6 people trying to match 6 people, and then trying to see if they can dodge a player and try and shoot.
Problem solving.
So like the team, if that team keeps attacking, so the defender just.
They're gonna be very tired.
Oh.
So yeah. So for me personally, I play as defense mostly. So there have been games I've been involved in where I don't have much to do because obviously my attacking is taking care of it. There have also been a lot of times where I have been super swamped with things to do, and then my attackers are like haven't broken a sweat.
Wow.
So that's how it works.
In terms of the substitutions, you mentioned there's 10 players on the pitch, but substitutions, is it rolling? Or
Rolling subs, yeah.
Or how many of them on the bench?
So I'm not sure of official numbers, but generally it's not uncommon to see like 10 to 12 on the subs bench.
Is it?
Yes, because you have sort of different you'll have different people in charge of different things. So obviously defenders, you want the more defensive oriented people to be coming onto here. If you want people who can run, you want them more in midfield so that they can be able to go back and forth. Bearing in mind that you can have 6 aside, but that means as a midfielder you're still going box to box essentially.
Yes.
Right. And then you actually have this unique player who can be a midfielder essentially. And I think this is a good place to start talking about how you do kickoffs in lacrosse, right? So we call it a face-off, right?
Okay.
And essentially it is, not sure how to describe it without sort of visually showing it with a stick, but it's essentially one nominated player versus another nominated player from each team.
Okay.
Ball is down on the ground here.
Okay.
And it's essentially a 1v1 matchup, right? So when the whistle blows, they basically use the stick against each other, on the ground.
To grab the ball.
And they're trying to grab the ball, and basically you're trying to win that ball either by scooping it up or physically pushing them out of the way and fighting them. So that's pretty much how a face-off works. Possession isn't really given until whether the person in the middle has been able to scoop it out so that his teammate is able to pick up the ball, or he's able to pick up the ball himself, like safely within his pocket. Only at that point, right, will possession actually be formally given. And at that point, it's only when those people in the middle can actually be physically hit or physically involved with the other players on the pitch.
Okay. It sounds quite interesting, the how it's played and all. Maybe some listeners will be like, "Oosh, this is so like extra. I'm gonna get hurt." But yeah, some sports memang there is it.
There is an element.
Is this an extreme sport actually?
I wouldn't. I mean, if you consider extreme sports like skydiving and stuff like that, then I would say not really.
Okay.
But it's definitely those who sort of enjoy more physical sports, right? And I know that there are a lot of people out there that do enjoy that sort of physicality of it.
The thirst for it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, even like rugby also is physical also. Yeah,
Correct.
so it's not an extreme sport.
Oh, before you continue on, so sorry to cut you off there. How many referees are there?
4 referees.
4 referees.
So I think very, very similar concept to the sports like football and stuff, where you have a referee in the middle, you have a referee on the sidelines, and you'll have a referee as like the 4th man.
All right.
Okay. How do now you spoke about lacrosse, how it's played, the equipments and all. Now we're going to talk about Lacrosse Malaysia.
Yeah.
How did Lacrosse Malaysia started?
Yeah, sure. So pretty much when I first moved over and we basically set up the association, our goal was basically to start getting more and more people to play. And obviously the biggest challenge we had at that point was no one has ever heard of this sport before.
Yes.
So how do I introduce it? And then the next problem was, okay, let's say we have people to introduce it to. We have no equipment to play with. So what do we do, right? So then we basically got, I think the first natural step when trying to introduce a new sport or just building anything new is friends and family first.
Okay.
Get them a bit more involved, and then they can sort of, through word of mouth, try to get more and more people. But then obviously that's not really a scalable approach. Obviously you will have people that drop off. Obviously friends and family in this case, they're coming to just lie on you, essentially, right? Eventually they're going to get bored of you. And then you have to think of other measures to go. So what we did is to basically start advertising on things like social media and stuff like that. We had a quite dedicated Facebook page for a while. Then we started looking at avenues like Instagram and stuff. And then a couple of other avenues that we looked at were sort of event planning apps. So if anyone has heard of the likes of like Intonations or Meetup, we've used these platforms to a lot of great success. Essentially you advertise your events that you're holding and stuff, and if people who sign up with the app essentially can RSVP to these events, right? And these can be ranging from sports to like business meetups or social events or things like that. We actually found a lot of success with that through just advertising it as a brand new sport. So I think that was the angle we went with. We advertised it as try the newest sport in Malaysia, try the most up and coming sport in Malaysia Lacrosse, with Malaysia Lacrosse. And it seemed to get quite a lot of traction back then. We're talking like 2014, around there.
It was quite some time ago.
Quite some time ago.
Okay.
Right. And from there we managed to build like sort of like a good close-knit cult following in like a solid base of like 20 people. And then we thought, okay, now we need to sort of think about how to expand, right?
Okay.
But at the same time we sort of had it was a bit of a weird situation in the sense of whilst all this on the ground stuff was going on, I was also suddenly being involved with these discussions of, okay, the moment I said I intended to build lacrosse in Malaysia, a lot of people internationally reached out. So we're talking someone from the Federation of International Lacrosse, otherwise known as World Lacrosse now. So imagine a FIFA version of lacrosse. They reached out to me. There were other players in ASEAN who also reached out to me. Thailand Lacrosse, Singapore Lacrosse, all of their respective representatives, they reached out to me. A lot of their movements are also very grassroots. So once they heard that there was essentially someone in Malaysia who had a lacrosse stick, that was enough for them to make friends.
So basically, you're saying that our neighbor countries around us, they have been having this sport lacrosse for quite some time before?
I would say a lot of it is sort of up and coming, but it's very much driven by expat communities. So I mean, I guess like myself here, I learned the sport abroad. I came back and I sort of started introducing it, right? In other countries, so Thailand and Singapore especially, they have a lot of big expat communities, especially a lot of people who are based in America that come back, that might have played lacrosse in high school and stuff. It's quite big in America. And then they will help set up their own thing. So they were all sort of in the same scenario. But what was a weird situation is that on the ground, we were having very mixed results of getting people interested in the sport, right? Like obviously we can't, it's very hard to advertise what it is, right? So so we say things like, okay, it's a mix between American football and hockey, and that's pretty much all that we can say, right? Rather than just telling them, okay, YouTube it. Right? If I have to advertise something to you and then you ask me what it is and I say YouTube it, you're probably like going to be like, okay, they're not really selling it that well, but it's hard to describe. But on the weird side of it is that whilst all this sort of mixed results on the ground was going on, I was having all these discussions of, oh, okay, you guys are on the ground. We actually want to recognize you as a recognized member of World Lacrosse and stuff like that. So literally, I think it was about 2015 where we formally got recognized by World Lacrosse as a member nation. So that was a very big step for us and very, I guess, surprising, because essentially we were a very grassroots movement still. But I think, look, they were aware of that, right? But they could see the growth that was sort of happening and the dedication that myself and Wataru, which is the my vice president then, were trying to instill. Right? And this all culminated in also another event that was sort of happening around 2015, which is the Asia Pacific Games. So this was to be held in Bangkok. And we sort of saw it as a very ideal opportunity to be like, okay, you know what, let's try and say Malaysia are going and sort of put us on the map in the lacrosse world.
So you literally unofficially just represented the
pretty much, yeah. So we unofficially represented the country, all at our own cost. So that included the equipment, that included the jerseys. We even didn't even have enough players to actually participate. So what I did was oh no, even better than that. I phoned a friend. About I got 2 friends that I knew from university. Told them, hey, do you want to fly out to Thailand to play some lacrosse? Bearing in mind they've never been to Asia before. Right? And then they were like, yeah. And then they flew over like 2 weeks later. And they were like, yeah, just stay for the week and play some lacrosse.
So basically in history of Malaysia lah, dalam lacrosse ni, that was the very first time
pretty much
lacrosse on the map, Malaysia outside.
Correct. So we went to the Asia Pacifics. There were 8 teams involved, so we played against the likes of Thailand, Hong Kong, Australia, Korea, China, and Singapore. So quite a lot of teams around us, around the ASEAN area. And obviously for us, it was like our big venture into like, okay, this is like a very proper tournament. And I think what was a good part of it is the strategy that Wataru and I decided to set from the onset when we started Malaysia Lacrosse, which was we looked at how Singapore and Thailand were building their respective things. They're not necessarily new, but they basically made it for expat communities.
Okay.
So like it was only really accessible by expats.
Yeah,
so
expatriate.
Expatriates.
Expatriate.
So, you know, people who are here for work from the likes of like Western cultures, Australia,
you call
and stuff
that
like that. Expat. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
now I know.
foreigner.
Oh, okay. Continue.
Right. So they, you know, the people. Singapore has a lot of this. People who are from like America, UK, Europe. They go to a place like Singapore, work a couple of years, and then once their contract is up, they will go back to their home country, right? You have a lot of that, and it's basically in those couple of years that they will, play with Singapore lacrosse and stuff like that. But they never really made it accessible.
I see.
For locals.
Yeah.
So when we decided to try doing this, right, we made it a mindset to basically focus on getting local talent.
Yeah.
Right, to basically introduce and play. So when we went for the Asia Pacifics, I think we only had like maybe 4 locals, including myself.
Okay.
But those three that we were able to bring along, right? Basically, they have to this day they're still involved with lacrosse in Malaysia as a whole, right? It's basically, in their words, changed their lives, right?
Okay.
They have found a new sport, they've found a new calling, and it sort of helps spur on other things from there. How we actually did in a tournament, pretty terribly. Going back to how I said, scores are mostly 15-15.
Yeah.
We played our first game against Korea, and I think it was like fairly respectable, like 15-1.
Okay.
Respectable.
So their defenders were just sitting down.
I think lacrosse is one of these sports where the score can be incredibly high.
Okay.
If there's just even a small difference between the two teams, right? If there's a little bit more like more training, or like the guys are simply faster or more well built, simply because they train once more a week, you can you can make a big difference. So our second game, which was against Japan, we lost 37-1. So imagine conceding 37 goals in a 60-minute game.
Okay.
So
2 minutes a goal.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, less than that.
It
was it was a very humbling experience. But I mean, it was also very, and I think the referees also kind of understood the plight we're in, because the guy who scored our one goal got man of the match. But it was a very, I think it was a good experience to sort of be there and say, okay, look, this is the level that we all kind of want to aspire to be at, right?
Yeah.
Japan are now like, now as of the latest World Championships, so they're ranked 5th in the world, right? Whoa. So, compared to us, who probably picked up the stick like yesterday, right? I think that's when we sort of realized we're playing here we are playing a sport, and we're playing against people who are literally either semi-professional, they do it or they do it outright for a living professionally, right? And here we are, like, like retirees or students and stuff, just being able to play against them on the same pitch. So I think that was something we realized was like, wow, that's quite amazing.
No, to me, honestly, because I thought it's just a recreational sport. I didn't know you became competitive and literally go to different countries to this. So I think it's a good initiative start for you, and I'm sure since then, I think that a few years back ago, 2015, you said. I'm sure to today you have grown, and maybe The score is not 37 at all.
Well, we haven't played Japan since, so I don't know.
Okay.
So, but we've been in some mostly local tournaments, like so around ASEAN. So we play against Singapore lacrosse quite a bit. We've been in a couple of tournaments in Thailand. We did want to go for a couple of the Asia Pacifics that were based in Korea, but I think this is one of the big barriers for us, which was we were able to go for that Bangkok tournament simply because it was nearby. Right? It's very easy and very cheap to get us a flight there to Bangkok, and very cheap accommodation. Right, to get to places like Korea and stuff, especially with the talent that we're trying to build, right, which are mostly students, mostly people in the workforce for their first, second, third year, associate level and stuff like that, right? They're not earning that much. It's a bit difficult to justify them to take a week off work to be able to go play this, versus these other people who are in these countries like Australia, like Japan, where earning power is much more. It's easier for them to be able to take to basically go and spend a week to play lacrosse.
Okay, my next question to you is, as a founder of Malaysian Lacrosse, were you looking for Malaysian Lacrosse to be competitive, to represent the country and go, or were you looking for like a more community guide, for like more recreational, to make the people grow more? Yeah.
Or was it just a happy accident?
I think when it started, it was definitely more the recreational thing. It was, the driver was definitely very selfish. I moved to Malaysia. I wanted to play lacrosse more. Let's build my own lacrosse thing so that I can just play every Sunday. But then it slowly, like you said, a happy accident. It slowly formed into more and more thing of what we were building. And then we thought, okay, there is some traction here. In my view, it was like, okay, how do I keep the Sunday thing going?
Oh, you do have recreational sessions and all.
Yeah, so it's all still very recreational.
Okay.
I think lacrosse is a sport. I think it's a good time to sort of think about the barriers that we mostly have. So I cover one barrier, which is mostly cost. I guess the other barrier is with it sort of being driven by the expatriate communities and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
We only really see a lot of growth when we have people who have played the sport come and coach. Right, or like people who have been exposed to the sport before, they're able to coach other people on the ground. So in my case, I'm a guy who's essentially had 1 year of playing experience, right?
Okay.
So I also coach the team, but there's only so much that I myself can teach, because I am not someone who myself has been in the lacrosse world for that long.
Okay.
Right. So we sort of were hitting that point where we had a lot of people who were coming regularly for sessions and stuff like that. They were getting better, but trying to introduce that competitive aspect was getting a bit difficult.
Oh.
So at that point where I can understand very rarely, people can get frustrated that they want to get better, but there's this big barrier of it's not so easy to organize matches locally because there's not enough players in the pool. There's not enough equipment. To be able to try and source more equipment, you pretty much can only get it overseas. So you have to go to the likes of the States, or you have to go to Europe and buy them at retail. And
retail?
Yes.
You cannot ship.
No.
Oh,
Unfortunately not.
so you're telling me that all this equipment is bought from a shop, retail,
Essentially.
not online or whatever?
Well, as in an online shop. So there's a shops based in the US or the UK.
Okay.
We have because there's no outlet in Asia outright for any lacrosse equipment whatsoever.
No outlet in Asia?
In Asia.
Not even Southeast Asia?
Southeast Asia, no. I guess you have places like Japan
I see.
that do have it,
So
but
if you want to order, you can order from Japan also.
yeah, but the cost ends up being the same mostly. So for us, it's I guess that's been the biggest barrier. If you want to if someone wanted to basically pick up lacrosse as their brand new sport, right? The sad reality is if they wanted to buy their own equipment,
It would be difficult.
it would be very difficult for them. right?
see.
They would have to pay in USD to get this equipment.
Oh.
And it's not cheap. Let's put it this way. So the sticks that you're holding, right? You can get a beginner stick very cheap for like $30 to $40, right? So
Okay.
that's I think that's the biggest. That's the good thing about lacrosse. It's very cheap to sort of get into the sport. But even though I say that, you have to compare it against sports like ultimate frisbee or football, where all you need is a ball.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
How much you can get a ball from Decathlon or any other sports thing for what, 20, 30 ringgit, and then you've got enough for 10 people to play, right? This one you need to spend 200 ringgit just to be armed to play with the sport at all,
Okay.
right?
Then
Yeah.
total on the pitch it's 20.
Then if you want to get more competitive, you're like, okay, cool, you want to get more competitive, we need to start thinking about buying your own gloves, buying your own elbow pads, buying your own helmet. So gloves alone, if you want to get the cheapest ones, $20. Elbow pads, $20. Helmet, cheapest one alone is about $200.
Alamak.
So
Okay.
it adds up. And then you're talking about, okay, so if someone brand new to the sport wants his own equipment and wants to be able to play the sport, forget the competitive aspect of it, he has to shell out 1,000 ringgit just to be ready to
Okay.
play the sport.
Okay, my question also now, after you saying all that, you said you do still have recreational sessions. So if like me, myself, and Carl, like we want to play, so you provide us with equipments,
Yeah.
or like because like you said it's not cheap. So if we come and then we spoiled
So,
it, how's going to happen? Yeah, how do you?
So
I'm sure there's challenges
so,
like that.
So I guess this is sort of been the biggest challenge we've had over the years, right? It goes along with the vision we've had of trying to help the locals pick up the sport, right?
Okay.
A big part of that is obviously if you want to sort of try and get the locals to pick up the sport, right, you have to be able to provide the equipment and stuff like that, because I think it's obviously going to be harder to try and introduce a sport and to someone who is earning in Malaysia versus someone who is earning USD, is based in a country that is high earning power, and they're more inclined to be able to buy their own stuff. So we made the decision to try and source this equipment ourselves, right, at our own cost, and so that we can just make it free and available for
Oh my
local
God.
talent to be able to play.
So you're saying now to us that anyone can come and play lacrosse with you.
Pretty much, yeah. So we have all the equipment, we have all of the gear, we have goals, we have goalie equipment, whether you want to try as a defender or anything like that. We have all the sticks, whether it's women's,
Wow.
men's, all necessary, and
Own initiative from you.
pretty much.
Nice.
So
Wow,
in
that's so
the
inspiring.
pretty much in the 10 years that we have been running this game, everything has sort of come, I think, collectively out of our own pockets, right?
Wow.
Passion to serve.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what you said, a happy accident. Once I sort of realized, the things are growing, this community is growing and stuff, it became a passion project, right? Of wanting to sort of see different people pick up the sport, and I'm also happy to say that through this, I was able to sort of touch so many different lives through a sport that I just wanted to play on Sundays, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've met so many different people through this sport, right?
Wow.
And be able to introduce this sport to so many different nationalities that people would never, people in those countries would just never have seen before, right?
see.
So we've had so many different nationalities sort of come and play with us over the years, whether it's just someone who just turned up on a Sunday and then never turned up again, or someone who like randomly came on as a friend of a friend, got hooked, and then now they're just stuck with us, right? We've had people from Iran, Iraq, Turkey. Obviously, you have your Malaysian, your Singaporeans, your Indonesians. They've all come and they're like, oh, wow, what's this? And stuff like that. We are very proud to say that one of the players that we had was he was a student here from the country of Chad, which is in Africa, Chad. So not many people have heard of that country, but yeah, he was there. He came across and he was hooked, and basically he got to playing. He enjoyed it. Started coming very regularly. Even went for tournaments where we went over to play with in Singapore. We had a tournament where there was like a write-up by a lacrosse opinion magazine based in the US. So the guy actually played on our team, so he got to meet these type of people, right? This guy from Chad, and he was just amazed, right? That this guy who's from a country he's never heard of is here playing lacrosse in the same team as him.
Nice.
Right? And he was just like, and then he's since left Malaysia now, but it's nice to still see that he's still sending photos of, like, he went to the World Games in America like a couple of years ago, right? At his own initiative, right? So to see like photos of like that, and you can see that I got them hooked on this, and it was like, well, just wow. Right?
Nice.
I think that answered the question that I haven't asked yet, which is one of the sweetest memories.
It is, yeah.
Because
It is.
you bring color to people, unintentionally also.
Yeah. Challenges, aspiration, hugest memories.
Cover dah.
Cover up.
But you said that you keep on saying every Sunday.
Do you still do that?
Do you still do that? And
We
if
still do
yes,
that.
do you mind sharing actually where?
Sure.
So that people,
So I mean, we play every Sunday. We play at 9 a.m. So I've kept with the tradition since I
Came back.
came back to the country.
from the Desa Park City.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So like every
2013.
Sunday for 10 years.
Is it at Desa Park City?
No, so we've actually moved to Taman Rimba Kiara. So if you
Taman
know Taman Tun, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've been practicing there, I think, for the last 2 years now.
Okay.
Field is great, and you know, if we used to practice at Padang Merbok for quite a while.
Okay.
But the problem we had with that was the drainage. So
Okay.
there was a lot of times where
Muddy.
or the moment that there's rain, you just basically can't play.
Yeah.
It's just unsafe. So we decided to go to Rimba, which was a lot easier. At our peak, we had maybe 30 to 40 people coming on Sundays.
Nice.
Consistently.
How many equipments? So you have
a lot. We had to sort of fork out a lot for that, right?
Wow.
So, but we have 40 people, and again, this is all at our own cost. We basically felt obviously places like Padang Merbok and stuff were not good enough, so we actually reached out, and we actually used to have our sessions at Stadium Hockey Tun Razak, the one
Okay.
next to Publica.
Yeah.
So we rented out that whole stadium for our sessions
Oh,
for a
nice.
while. For a while.
Wow.
So, and it was pretty good.
But now currently every Sunday.
We're now at Rimba Kiara. Sad to say that our little community has shrunk quite a lot.
Okay.
Unfortunately, thanks to COVID.
Okay.
So COVID hit us quite bad. We I think by 2019 we basically just had a friendly on Malaysian soil, and that was essentially the first proper lacrosse game played in Malaysia, right? Like the first proper and it was Malaysia versus Singapore.
Okay.
Malaysia won.
Nice.
So
31-1, I assume.
I hope it wasn't that. I think it was like 10-8 or something like that.
Alright.
Yeah. So I did score a few, so it's
Nice.
okay.
Okay. So do you have any upcoming friendlies as well?
We do have a friendly versus Singapore coming up December 9th,
Okay.
right? They will be coming down to KL again.
To play at Rimba?
No, so it would be, I think, locations to be determined for now.
Okay.
But we basically encourage anyone and everyone who is even interested in playing to come down and just try it out, right?
Nice.
Because our community has shrunk a little bit, how we have done this is basically Singapore are coming down not with the intention of like having a very physical game, but they're coming to help us grow the game. Right.
Okay.
And this is sort of like one big saying with lacrosse, which is everyone wants to grow the game, right? And you grow the game by just getting one extra person to pick up a stick. That's it. right? So they are literally helping us bring their whole team down, play against our team, but the intention of the day is to introduce the sport to new people. So we actively encourage anyone who actually wants to come down and actually just understand what the sport is, even play it, even if they want to play against Singapore that day. We're very happy to let you pick up a stick, we'll give you the glove and helmet and stuff. Go for it.
All right. Yeah, they are listening and all. So, looking, can you just let them know like how to like
Reach out to you.
Yep. So you can look up Malaysia Lacrosse on Instagram. So yeah, we have an Instagram channel. I think it's at Malaysia Lacrosse. Just reach us out there. Give our page a follow. Yeah, we basically have our sessions every Sunday. Feel free to just drop us a DM, and we'll be happy to sort of reach out. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Carl, anything?
Okay, I'm just amazed. I'm amazed
like,
of the kindness.
And like,
Yes.
yeah, because like this is personal initiative. It started off from just one person, you yourself, and like
your VP.
yeah. So I think you should just go and make it bigger and don't. I'm sure there's times that you want to like
Cultivate it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
One step at a time.
I think it's very important to highlight just how much COVID impacted us. So we, at our peak, when we had our first match against Singapore, I think we had about 60 players at that point.
Okay.
We were in a very good position where we had 60 players. We were working with a few international schools in doing practice sessions for the women's team, right? We were basically in the midst of negotiating all that for a couple of terms, so things were good, right? From our perspective, from an organization perspective, it was our first time of properly getting income.
Oh,
right?
cool.
Then COVID hit and basically messed everything up.
I see.
So
now slowly trying to get back.
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
So that's where we are right now.
Okay.
We've gone from the likes of 60 to about 20.
Okay.
a lot of
that is
people-
still
We've lost a lot of people, whether it's through a mix of, people leaving the country, a lot of people found their old job, found new callings over COVID and stuff like that. And then so now that's where we are. We basically want to get where we were before.
Okay.
Right? And I'm aware that it's essentially like starting at square one again, but it's a passion project. So
Wow.
I'm very happy to, every time we have some new person picking up a stick and they fall in love with it, it makes me fall in love with what I'm doing all over again.
Nice.
yeah. To me, like, firstly, this episode is quite panjang, quite long because he had to explain first what is lacrosse and then
The history of
the
it.
history of it. He even
The
mentioned
Malaysian
it.
history
Yeah.
of it.
Malaysian history about Malaysian lacrosse and then how his challenges. So I think it's a very impactful episode and I believe
Condensed.
I did not realize that actually it's already almost time. So why don't we go skip to the next segment?
Again, we'll have more of this. Don't worry. Yeah.
We will obviously ask you more because we didn't ask him like the recognition and everything more about the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you